وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد رسول رب العالمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين. O Allah, teach us what benefit us, increase us in knowledge, in good morals, and in good deeds, Ya Rabb al-Alameen. We continue by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings in منظومة المقدمة فيما يجب على قارئ القرآن أن يعلمه من نظم إمام الحفاظ وحجة القراء محمد بن علي ابن يوسف المعروف بابن الجزري رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا به. We are still explaining this adopted poem in Tajweed, in the science of reciting the recitation of the Holy Quran. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us and blessed me to recite or to read this poem to with a connected chain of narrators back to the author of this great poem, Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah ta'ala. Allah blessed me to read it to Sheikh Ayman Suwaid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them and benefit us from him, who got it from his Sheikh Abdul Aziz Ayun al-Sood, the great Syrian Qari and Sheikh and Mufti and scholar, who got it from his Sheikh, the famous Egyptian Sheikh Ali al-Dabba', and who got it from his Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Sha'ar, and who got it from Sheikh Muhammad al-Mutawalli, who got it from his Sheikh Ahmad al-Durri al-Tihami rahimahullah ta'ala ajma'in, who got it from Sheikh Ahmad bin Muhammad al-Ma'ruf bi Salmuna, and he got it from Sheikh Ibrahim al-Ubaydi, al-Sayyid al-Muhaqqiq al-Mudaqiq Ibrahim al-Ubaydi. Ibrahim al-Ubaydi, we find him also in the chain of the qira'at in our isnad to Sheikh Bakri Tarabishi rahimahullah ta'ala. In the isnad of Sheikh Bakri Tarabishi rahimahullah ta'ala, Sheikh Sayyid Ibrahim al-Ubaydi, he got it from Sheikh al-Ujhuri, and al-Ujhuri, he got it from Sheikh Ahmad al-Baqari, who got it from his father Sheikh Muhammad al-Baqari, and he got it from Sheikh Abdurrahman bin Shahada al-Yamani, who got it from his father Sheikh Shahada al-Yamani, who got it from Sheikh Tablawi, who got it from Sheikh Zakariya al-Ansari, who got it from Sheikh Abi Na'im Ridwan al-Uqbi, who got it from Sheikh Ibn al-Jazari, from Imam al-Huffaz wa Hajjat al-Qurra, Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah ta'ala wa rahimahum ajma'in. We are in the scholars, they say when you mention the Salihin, the righteous people, the barakat and the blessings inshallah will descend upon us. Those great scholars who transmitted to us this poem, they're all of the Qurra and of the ulama and of the scholars. And I'm depending based mostly on the explanation of Sheikh Ayman Suwaid hafidhahullah ta'ala, and I also prepare from the explanation of Mullah Ali al-Qari, which is al-Minah al-Fikriyya, the explanation of Shaykh al-Islam Zakariya al-Ansari, who's in this chain, as you heard, rahimahullah ta'ala, and the explanation of the son of Imam Ibn al-Jazari himself. He has an explanation on Jazariyya, and some other resources. We stopped at al-Bayt or al-Bab al-Thamin, the eighth section. The eighth section of this poem, al-Bab al-Thamin. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Bab al-Dadi wal-Dha. Bab al-Dadi wal-Dha. The first section was introduction. The second was Makharij al-Huruf, Sifat al-Huruf. Then section on Tajweed and the definition of Tajweed and the ruling of Tajweed, etc. And then there were, some tanbihat and some lines about tarqiq and separate rules. And then he explained about the Ra section, and the last one which we finished earlier this month, or the last month, was what? Al-Lam wa Ahkam Mutafarriqa, about the Lam and separate rules. And we already said, again, brothers and sisters, that the main part of Al-Jazariyya, we covered it. The main part in Tajweed, we covered it, which is what? Makharij al-Huruf and Sifat al-Huruf. These are the two, like these are this is like the backbone or the foundation of of reading Arabic correctly and reading the Quran correctly. All of the other rules, they're either all of the other coming rules, they're about some additional things that are needed, but many of them, they're just reinforcing some of the points on makharij, on sifat, and tarqiq, and tafkhim, and etc. Like this section, which is bab al-dad wal-dha, is basically al-dad, the letter that we all know, and al-dha. This section is about al-dad and al-dha. What is Imam al-Jazari going to tell us here? He already explained to us the makhraj of the dad, and he already explained to us the makhraj of the dha. Then why he's mentioning this here? He's reinforcing that and mentioning it particularly because so many people, even in his time until now, they mix between these two letters, or they change one of these two letters, or both of them, to other letters and other sounds that are not correct. That's why Imam al-Jazari and other Imams in their Tajweed poems, they mention the same issue. And this is in itself, brothers and sisters, in itself is enough for some sheikhs, especially in the subcontinent. And I hope there isn't any more of those types of sheikhs who insist to change the dad into dha and change the dad into another letter. So this section is by itself, the title of the section is enough to understand that you cannot mix between these two letters. And here we have to differentiate between two things. If someone cannot pronounce that letter and he's doing his best and he tried and he sought to learn it from the people of knowledge who are specialized in this, and he couldn't, Allah will not overburden you. Allah will not bring you to account for this. That will not be a sin because you did what you can, right? لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. And the other ayah, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. But to come and say, no, this letter and this letter are the same, then here, that is a big sin. That is a major sin. That is a big deal. That's a disaster. If you're saying this letter is like this letter, you're like destroying a lot of part of the language, because you're gonna mix so many words together. You're mixing and you're opposing the consensus and the agreement of the Muslim scholars about the Quran. You can never play in this field, no matter how big you are as a sheikh or a scholar or wali or whatever you are. Here you cannot play in this field. To come and change a letter in the Quran, you can never do that, no matter who you are. And that's by consensus of the scholars, that Dad is a special sound that you should not replace it with another sound. But if you tell me Sad, okay, I tell you, yes, there's another variant of the Sad in some qira'at, not in Hafs, in some qira'at, in which you say Za, for example, Za. And instead of saying Assi, you say Azzi. Ihdina sirata, you say Ihdina zirata. Well, in the some qira'at, yes, not in Hafs, not in Hafs. So we have to pay attention to that. This section has 10 lines, very easy. Inshallah, they don't need a lot of explanation, because as we will see in them, Imam Ibn Jazari is only telling you what are the words that are pronounced with dha. That's basically the whole section. The words that are mentioned in the Quran, that you have to read them with dha instead of dha. The words that you have to pronounce with dha instead of dad, instead of dad. What does Imam Ibn al-Jazari say, rahimahullah ta'ala? He said, والضاد باستطالة ومخرج ميز من الضاء وكلها تجي في الظعن ظل الظهر عظم الحفظ أيقظ وأنظر عظم ظهر اللفظ ظاهر لظى شواظ كظم ظلما أغلظ ظلام ظفر انتظر ظما أظفر ظنا كيف جاء وعظ سوى عضين ظل النحل زخرف سوى وظلت ظلتم وبروم ظلوا كالحجر ظلت شعران ظلوا يظللن محظورا مع المحتضر وكنت فظا وجميع النظر إلا بويل هل وأولى ناظرة والغيظ للرعد وهود قاصرة والحظ للحظ على الطعام وفي ظنين الخلاف سامي وإن تلاقي البيان لازم أنقض ظهرك يعض الظالم واضطر مع وعظت مع أفضتم وصفها جباههم عليهم. In the second last line, he's telling you, وَإِن تَلَاقَيَا, if they meet together, ضاد and ظا, البيان لازم. You have to clarify them, distinguish between them, not mix them. أنقض ظهرك, he's giving you an example. أنقض ضا. أنقض ظهرك يعض الظا يعض الظالم. Two different words, two different meanings. So distinguish between them. And then he said واضطر, also the ضاد with the طاء. واضطر مع وعظت مع أفضتم. Pay attention to all those. Okay, we're going to come to them inshallah in details. If you can see my screen. Here. You can see my screen, right? So باب الضاد والظاء. Bismillah. So 10 lines, as you can see. Inshallah, they should be very easy. So the first line, he says, والضاد باستطالة ومخرج ميز من الضاء. والضاد, this واو استئنافية, and الضاد, the name of this letter is ضاد, as you can see. Not ضا, not ضا, or ضاد. As one of the brothers, mashallah, he's making a video on the ضاد. May Allah reward him yani, for his intention, but like, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He's saying, today we will learn the letter ضاد. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi. Where is that letter? ضاد. ضاد. MashaAllah. Yani you see from the first moment of the video, you see like Jazakallah khair, brother. This is one of the problems in this time that anyone just can make a book or make a video, or may Allah protect us yani, and teach us, and not make us also ourselves, and not make me of those who will dare spread incorrect knowledge. والضاد باستطالة ومخرج. باستطالة. B means with here. B استطالة. باستطالة. With استطالة and with مخرج. باستطالة ومخرج. ميز. ميز means what? Who knows? ميز.
Distinguish.
Distinguish. Nice. Distinguish. Separate. Distinguish. Distinguish. With استطالة and مخرج, distinguish the ضاد mina from, distinguish it from الضاء. الضاء, of course, the name of the letter that you all know. We can say also ضاء, as we mentioned before. There are two ways of reading the Arabic alphabet: ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha, putting a hamza in some of those letters, and dropping the hamza in some of those letters that have a hamza at the end. In the names of those letters that have a hamza, you drop the hamza according to the qira'ah of Hamza and other qurra. So you say ba, ta, tha, dha, dha. Okay, and that's the method we're adopting in our curriculum to teach the alphabet to the kids, to say dha, ba, ta, ha, ha. That will help them to read the al-huruf al-muqatta'a correctly and easily. Okay, ميز من الضاء. So Then he says, وَكُلُّهَا تَجِي, and all of, who can translate this? كُلُّهَا. كُلُّهَا. يلا. كُلُّهَا means what?
All of
Who
it.
knows?
All of it.
All of it, right? That's the trick. That's the trick. All of it. Why you said all of it? Because you saw ha, right? And you know ha is for female or for it or for her, right?
Yeah.
But here he means كلها أي كل الضاءات. Okay? كلها, because it doesn't make sense to say كل الضاء, right? So he means كل الضاءات. كلها أي الضاءات. And of course you know that with non-human plural, non-human irregular plural in Arabic, we use singular feminine pronoun.
No.
One more time. With non-human irregular plural in Arabic, we use singular masculine, singular feminine pronoun. Okay? And with human irregular plural, you can use feminine, singular feminine pronoun, and you can use the plural pronoun. But with non-human plural, you have to use singular feminine. With the non-human irregular plural, you have to use singular feminine pronoun. Okay? كلها. So for example, you say about the trees, you say كلها. كل الأشجار. كل الأشجار. If you want to say كل الأشجار, you want to say كلها, you say all of them. In English, you translate it all of them because you're referring to a plural, right? So if you talk about, for example, the angels or the messengers, for example, sometimes in the Quran, they're referred to with the singular feminine pronoun. So that's how the Arabs speak. وَكُلُّهَا means all of them. Now, كُلُّهَا, this ha, as we said, refers to them. Does this refer to the dha or to the dad? Well, in Arabic, the general rule is the pronoun will refer to the last mentioned noun. Is that clear? In general, in general, there are some exceptions for this rule. In Arabic, there are always exceptions, okay? Most of the time. The pronoun refers to the last mentioned noun, okay? So what does that mean? If you say, for example, Ahmad and Mahmoud came and I gave him a book. Who did I give, Ahmad or Mahmoud? So him will refer in Arabic to the last mentioned noun, which is Mahmoud in this example. So if you say, for example, if you say جاء, if you say جاء أحمد وحامد وأعطيته كتابا. Okay, so you're saying أعطيته, for example, أعطيته, I gave him. I gave who, حامد or Ahmad? So they say الضمير يعود إلى أقرب مذكور. This pronoun which I gave him, which is أعطيته, who, it refers to what? To the nearest name or noun that is mentioned, which is here Hamid. Same thing here. كلها, all of them, refer to what? To the dha. Okay? كلها تجي. تجي is the simple form or simplified form of تجي. It's originally تجي. Okay? تجي with a hamza. And of course, the Imam chose to say تجي, which is according to the qira'ah of Hamza of the 10 Qurra, rahimahullah ta'ala. in which he drops the hamza at the end, and of course he chose taji instead of taji to fit the rhythm of his poem. That is the literal meaning of the line. Distinguish and separate and don't mix. Distinguish the dad from the dha with what? With istitala and with the makhraj. And all of the dha'at in the Quran come كلها تجي in في كلها تجي في. Then he starts all of those 9 remaining lines or 8 of the remaining lines. He does what? He enlists all of them and tells you where it comes with the dha. What are the words that come with the dha? So he says في الظعني ظل الظهر عظم الحفظ أيقظ. And he gives you the main words, okay, that from which you know all the words that came in the Quran with the dha instead of dad, okay. That's what the whole section is about. We're going to go over them, of course, line by line, inshallah. And at the end, he mentions, in the last 2 lines, he mentions some extra points about that thing. So bismillah. First of all, of course, we have to review together very quickly, not in details, very quickly, the makhraj of the dad and the istitala. What is istitala and what is makhraj? Makhraj, the makhraj of the dad. So number 1, the dad and the dha have different makharij, different letters, different makharij. They're not even like ta and dal and ta, which have like same makhraj but different sifat. No, they have different makharij. The dad has a makhraj that do not, or does not,
Oops.
that does not share it with any, other letter. Okay, that the dad has its unique makhraj. Even Arabic is called what? Lughatul dad or lisanul dad, we know, right? They say lisanul dad or lughatul dad because the dad exists only in Arabic, not in any other language. That's why you will see so many like distortions of the dad, as we will see. Some people will make it dha. Some people, even some Arabs, not only, don't think only non-Arabs change the dad. No, in my own country, some people say ضربني, and instead of ضربني, 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 they say ضربني, أضرب. They use the dha instead of dad, right? That doesn't make them right. That's a distortion of the letter, right? But we in Damascus, we don't say that, for example, at least. Okay, in some villages, right, they say dha, okay, and instead of dad. Some people make it za, right? Za, like in India, Pakistan. Some people, alhamdulillah, now a lot of people, alhamdulillah, are reading the right way, but still some people say za, right? Za. Some people say Allah, 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 Allah. They make it like a heavy lam, even though that's rare, but it is there. That's how. Some people make it za, Ramazan, right? There are names. We have some students in the past. Some of them, I know some people, some students in the past. Their name is Ramazan. Where did this za come from? And they write it Ramazan. Okay, just to give you an example, how people change these letters. Ramazan, they write it like this, Ramazan or Ramzan. So it was Ramadan, then they make it Ramazan. I don't know, with that variant of the Sad, Ramazan. Okay, and then they make it lighter. Okay, then they make it lighter, Ramazan, right? So that's an example of the change. We have also, I know someone named Fayyaz. From what I understand, Fayyaz, anyone knows where they got it from? Anyone knows the original word? It's Fayyad. One of my sheikhs, the main sheikh who taught me tajweed, Okay, the
لا لا
basic tajweed
شيخ
rules.
عبد الله
His name
طبيعي
is
وصدى
Fayyad,
نعم
rahmahullah.
جزري شيخ عبد الله لا شيل الكاميرا ها
His name is what? Fayyad with a dad. And people change it Fayyaz, and then they make it light form, Fayyaz. You see, this is an example how people change this letter. So the dad, distinguish the dad. And in Saudi Arabia, it's like I hardly heard a sheikh in Saudi Arabia who's gonna say dad instead of who's gonna say dad in the right way. Most of them they say dad, الضاد, ضعيف. Unfortunately, even like sheikhs, they speak this way. So it's a problem, because when you don't learn, it's a problem. When you don't go to a sheikh and learn the right way, it's a problem, whether in tajweed or in anything, right? So والضاد, the dad has its unique makhraj. So distinguish it from the dha, number one, with its makhraj. Now, why he's saying باستطالة باستطالة ومخرج, with the استطالة and the makhraj. Okay, the makhraj, we understand. They have different makharij. Why he mentioned istitala in particular? Of course, first, we distinguish the letters with what? With the makhraj, right? Here, he just switched them just for the rhythm, by the way. Okay? If he said وَالضَّادَ بِمَخْرَجٍ وَاسْتِطَالَةٍ مَيِّزْ, so it doesn't work. So first, we distinguish the letter from another letter with what? With the makhraj, right? Then, with the other things. Why he mentioned باستطالة? Why he mentioned باستطالة? Huh? Anyone knows?
Because the only letter that it has istitala is letter dad.
The only letter that has istitala is the dad. Correct. But another thing is that the dad and the dha, they share almost all of the sifat. All of the
Yes.
sifat, they share, all of the sifat are common among them except for istitala,
Yes.
right? For example, the dad has, dad and dha both have what? Let's read it from there right away. They have isti'la, right?
Heaviness.
They have isti'la, right? They have itbaq. They have jahr, not hamis. They have rakhawa, not shidda. And heaviness, which is the result of isti'la. This is why he said distinguish the dad by its unique attribute of istitala. Tamam? Of course, the first thing to distinguish a letter from another by the makhraj. He mentioned by the makhraj, or is the makhraj. The first thing to distinguish a letter from another is the makhraj, right? He mentioned istitala before the makhraj. Why? Just for the rhythm. Just for the rhythm. Wallahu a'lam. Okay? Just for the rhythm. Okay. Now, the main explanation of the dad. How is the dad pronounced? We said two things. The makhraj and istitala. So first of all, we're going to learn the makhraj. Remember, of course, we explained that in makharij al-huruf section. We explained it again on sifat al-huruf section, and I think we mentioned it in another occasion. We're going to go over this very quickly. The makhraj of the dad is by Imam al-Jazari said in a few words, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. What does he say? وَالضَّادَ مِنْ حَافَتِهِ إذ ولي لضراس من أيسر أو يمناها واللام أدناها لمنتهى. So he said والضاد من حافته. What does حافته mean? حافة اللسان, not حافة اللسان as we say in our slang. It's حافة, not حافة. والضاد من حافته إذ ولي من حافته, the edge of the tongue. We called it the edge of the tongue. Okay? من حافته, the edge. This is the edge, huh? The edge of the tongue. Not And the edge of the tongue, of course, from the back all the way to the front, all of that is an edge for the tongue. So if this is the tongue, all of this is the edge. All of this is the edge of the tongue. Okay, that's the edge. He's saying min hafatihi. Well, all of this is the edge. From where? He said min hafatihi idh waliya ladrasa. From the part that's adjacent to the molars, means this part of the edge. You see, guys, is this clear? Means this part of the edge, this part, which is adjacent to the molars. Suppose these are the molars, this part of the edge of the tongue. Well, we have a right edge and a left edge of the tongue in that case. Which one? He said, min aysara aw yumnaha, from the left or the right, or both of them, as mentioned in the explanations of the poem. So that's the main explanation or the summary that Imam Ibn Jazari explained about the Dad. Now we have to add some explanation to that. Okay, and then he said in the وَلِلتَّفَشِّ الشِّينُ ضَادًا يَسْتَطِلُ. When he talked about istitala, just he said make istitala for the Dad. So this is the basic information Imam Ibn Jazari mentioned, and it's really, mashallah, yani the main thing. The main thing for the Dad is to know that it is from the far edge of the tongue. Now some people come and say, sunnah to do from the both right and left. Subhanallah, there is nothing like that. Okay, we never heard something like that, like it's sunnah to do from the right or the left, or no, we don't have any proof for that. Imam Ibn Jazari said clearly, from the left side or the right side. And in the explanation, the scholars, they said, or both of them. Always the imams cannot, they cannot include all the meanings in poetry, because poetry always limit them. Okay, and this is why always you will have the poems or the mutun and their explanations. Always you will have explanations. So the scholars, they make these mutun just to make it easy for students to memorize the main concepts. And this is why every single poem in Aqidah, in Nahu, in all of those poems, Al-Ajrumiyya, Al-Shatibiyya, Al-Jazariyya, Al-Kharid Al-Bahiyya, all of those poems, they need explanation. And they're just to memorize the main concepts. Sometimes some detailed concepts, but always there will be a need for explanation, for an explanation. So don't waste time of students or confuse yourself that I have to do the right side. No, the right side is better. No, ya akhi and ya ukhti, whatever is easier for you, whatever is easier for you, try the right side. Make the pressure on the right side. If it works for you, great. Try the left. If it's whatever, great. Try both of them at the same time. If that works for you, great. Tell students to try either side. A lot of times with some students, one side will be easier for them. They will get it. But if you tell them, no, it's better to do the right. Well, who told you better? It's not better or anything. What is better is what's easier for you. As long as the makhraj is this, khalas. Do it from here or both. Now, what do we do? What should we tell the students and how we explain the Dad? We say, this is the roof of the mouth. Okay? This is the roof of the mouth. Is this clearer or this way clearer? If I explain this way, I think this way, right? So suppose this is the roof of the tongue. I'm going to show you also with the pictures and the video, inshallah. But this is the roof of the tongue, the roof of the mouth, the roof of the mouth. If I make a mistake, don't hesitate to correct me, okay? Because I don't like the mistake appears in the video and no one corrected me. This is the roof of the mouth. The roof of the mouth. What do we have here? We have teeth all the way, right? We have teeth. And behind these teeth, of course, the root, we have gum. So we have all of that gum around, right? All of the gum, and we have the teeth all around. What will we do? We're gonna touch all of those edges or those gum, all of that gum, the upper gum of all of the teeth, all of it, from the molars all the way to the front teeth, to the other side. All of that upper gum, we have to touch it with all of the edges of the tongue. All of the edges of the tongue. SubhanAllah, I wanted to bring that model, what do they call it? In to show you the like an artificial tongue, but I forgot about it. Anyway, this is the roof and this is the tongue. I'm gonna like this. They're gonna touch like this. The edges of the tongue will touch all of the upper gum like this. Okay, not on the teeth, of course, not on the teeth. You're not gonna press on your tongue. You're not gonna make this. You're never gonna do that. Okay. It's okay if some people laugh, but it doesn't matter as long as, inshallah, they learn. Okay, or they feel like it doesn't matter. We need to make sure this is explained clearly, because unfortunately, if you search the web, you will see things that you will not like. So you're not gonna press on the edge of your tongue with your teeth. Never. The teeth will be like this, huh? Okay. You're gonna touch that upper gum, all of it. You're gonna touch what? You're gonna touch it with the edges of the tongue, like this. That's the first step. I have some students, they do, they don't know what to do with their tongue. Okay, take it easy. Just touch. Keep your tongue flat like this. Flat and normal and relaxed, huh? See the teeth? That's the first step. Now the sound is being blocked because I'm touching all of the upper gum with all of the edges of the tongue. Now comes the exact makhraj, and the main thing to pronounce the dad is what Imam Ibn Jazari said, min hafatihi idh waliya ladrasa. Now we're gonna work on the part of the edge which is adjacent to the molars. We called it far edge. And we're gonna explain this again with the pictures. That part of the tongue which is opposite to the molars, we called it what? The far edge of the tongue. We have the right one, the left one, and both. So this part, huh? This part of the edge of the tongue, or these far edges of the tongue, what will you do with them? We already said we're touching all of the gum with all of the edges. Now what should we do? You're gonna make a pressure on the far edges of the tongue. That's what will make the dot sound. So we're gonna do what? We're gonna keep touching up. Now we're gonna make a pressure on those far edges. Now Now what did I do? Did you hear any difference? I used the right side and then I used the left side and I used both of them together. The same sound. Okay? Ba do di ba do di ba do di ba do di. That's all. That's the makhraj. Press on the far edges of the tongue. Press them against the opposite part of the gum. Okay. That's the one. Then we come to the istitala. The istitala will come natural because when you're blocking the sound by touching all of the gum with all of the edges, the air will have no place. So it's imprisoned. So the istitala is what? In definition, by definition, the movement of the tongue under the air that is imprisoned between the tongue and the roof. So the istitala is طلب الطول. Prolong a little bit like this. And will not exceed the teeth, will remain behind the teeth, the front teeth. So you're not going to have your tongue outside of the mouth at all. You're not going to press on the tip of your tongue at all. So it will be like this. Fadlu, ba, du, di, ba, du, di, ba, du, waladda. That is the dad. Any question before we move to the pictures and the video? Any question on that? Another idea some scholars mentioned, like Sibawayh, he said it's shibhun nafakh, it's like blowing. So he means because when the air is imprisoned here, okay, it's like increasing, it's like, okay, like as if you're blowing, because the air is imprisoned here and you're moving it. So as if you're blowing, okay? It's like also like the frog sound. See? So you can do it even without opening your mouth, huh? Okay?
Can I ask the question? So how would you define the istitala? Is the movement of the tongue under the imprisonment of the roof of the mouth?
Exactly. Under the pressure of the air that's imprisoned between the tongue and the roof. And we explained that, of course, in detail in the istitala class, or in the lesson on istitala. Okay. Now the result of istitala is what? What's the result of istitala, guys? That's the type of questions I'm going to ask you in the test, huh? I'm not going to tell you like what is the sifa of the dad, or no. What is the result of istitala? Who knows? Just like what is the result of isti'la?
Oh, the lengthening, the elongation.
What is it? Come on, guys. I have 10 people or 9 people. What's the result of استعلاء? استعلاء. وحرف الاستعلاء فخم. استعلاء is the sound going up to the roof. Okay, what's the result of that استعلاء? Is that the letter is heavy, right? Heavy. It has that echo. Now, what's the result of istitala? The movement of the tongue. What's the result of that movement? Is that the sound flows, and the flowing of the sound is what in tajweed?
Rakhawa.
Rakhawa.
Yeah.
So, Rakhawa is the result of istitala, is the mustahaq of istitala. Okay? Any question on that so far? Okay, bismillah. So we can go to the pictures. Okay. So a dad is produced by touching the upper molars and their gum, huh? Touching the upper molars and their gum and the sides of the roof. Let me see, not touching the upper. Well, yeah, what I mean here, touching the upper molars from inside. You see the point? When you're touching the roof, okay, the edge of the tongue will touch 3 things. When you say, it's touching the internal part of the teeth, it's touching the upper gum, right? It's touching and touching part of the roof of the mouth, okay? Part of the roof of the mouth. But this might be confusing a little bit. So we can say is produced by touching, let's say, just make it simple, the upper gum. Touching the upper gum. Okay. and we can keep it here just for like teachers. So the general say, let's say, touch the upper gum, or what do you guys think is the best word for students? Is that we tell them touch the upper gum, they understand that there's a gum up there, or tell them touch the roof? If we say the roof, then that will be the whole roof, which is not right. We're gonna tell them touch what in English wise?
Can we say the internal gum? The internal gum?
Obviously, I put here upper, so it's understood. So touching the upper, we can say internal gum. Okay.
Yeah.
The upper internal gum, touching the upper internal gum. Let's say practically, we can keep it as a note just for teachers here.
Yeah.
Let's say it here. Let's say it here. Practically, when we touch the upper internal gum, the edge, do we need after when? Do we need a comma after the when clause, or they don't put a comma? When we touch the upper internal gum, we are also touching. We are also touching what? The internal side of the molars, as well as part of the roof of the tongue. Is that clear, guys? Clear? Inshallah. So we come back here. Is produced by touching the upper internal gum with the edges of the tongue. That's the main thing, huh? While applying pressure on the right, left, or both sides. Produced by touching the upper internal gum with the let's say far edges of the tongue with the edges of the tongue while applying pressure on the right, left, or both. Not like this. With the edges of the tongue while applying pressure on the far edges of the tongue. The left, right, or both, as we see in the following diagram. Is that clear? Anyone who has a better suggestion, let me know. Produced by touching the upper internal gum with what? Now we mentioned all of the gum, all of the upper internal gum, with the edges of the tongue, all of the edges. So we have this shape now. While applying pressure on the far edges of the tongue. Well, while applying pressure using the far edges of the tongue. Inshallah, that's how it should be. Applying pressure while using, what do we use for applying that pressure? The far edges of the tongue, the left, the right, or both, as we see in the following diagram. Tamam. Where we're gonna apply the pressure using those far edges. Where will we apply that pressure? Against the gum, right? While applying pressure against the gum using the far edges. So when we say using the far edges, that pressure will be pressed only where? Against the parts of the gum which is adjacent or which is opposite to those edges, right? So this, inshallah, should need no more like explanation. And that is what we meant here. The whole, see here what I meant. This is part of the roof. We're touching that part. And at the same time, we're touching the internal side of the teeth and their gum, right? And their gum. So that's what we're touching. Now, all of this area, we're touching the blue as well as the yellow. But where are we applying the pressure? We're applying the pressure on this part, which is this part of the gum or the roof of the mouth. And we will be using what? The far edges of the tongue, because the far edge of the tongue corresponds or is opposite to this part of the gum. حافة اللسان مع ما يجاورها من الأضراس العليا. المنطقة الصفراء تلامس من غير ضغط. This is only touching without pressing. And the blue area is touching with pressing and with the pressure. Okay, and this is it shows, the arrows show how the sound is imprisoned here. Okay, and the tongue will move slightly forward. Now, who can tell me, if I make the pressure here, who can tell me what sound we will have?
Lam.
Are you sure?
No, then it would just be full mouth ضغط.
It will be la if sister. So it will be la if we're not touching here at all. But I'm saying if we're touching all of this area, but we're making the pressure here on this area.
It's going to be dal مفخمة.
Exactly. So
Yes.
that will be a heavy dal that most people, or many people, let's say, do it. So they say da, da, da. So we tell them, just instead of making the pressure on the front part of the tongue, d, where the dal is, just make it in the back. And instead of saying da, say da, da, d, da, d. See the difference? Da, da. They touch all the gum, but they make pressure on the yellow area, on the front part of the gum.
Yeah, you're making استعلاء with the dal.
So they say da, da, walad da, wa da. And that is, of course, a sound that we don't have in Arabic. تفضلي. We don't have in Arabic a heavy dal. Yes.
As I was saying, if you're making استعلاء with the dal, of course it's going to be dal مفخمة, which is wrong.
Yeah, and you're now you can say da, da without making that much pressure. But they make a lot of pressure thinking that will be the dad. Da, da, da. They make extra pressure, and that's not right. Notice that all of the edges of the tongue touch the upper internal gum. There's another picture. Here it is.
Yeah.
Let's move this up. Okay. Notice that all of the, as you can see, all of the edges of the tongue touching all of the upper internal gum, all of it. But the green areas are touch on press, touch on pressure, and the yellow area only touching. May Allah reward Sheikh Ayman and the artists who worked with him to make such a great illustrations and pictures. Is that clear so far?
Yeah, just a suggestion. I'm not sure about this, but do you think it might be a good idea to call the edge that you're talking about, which is going to touch the whole internal gum, should we call that the perimeter? And then you can call the far edges the edges adjacent to the molars, so that you're making a distinction.
No, we already established, following Sheikh Ayman's terms, that, and because this has relation to the lam, وَاللَّامُ أَدْنَاهَا لِمُنْتَهَاهَا. So this is something established already, that we have أدنى الحافة, which is the near edge, and we have the far edge of the tongue. So those are terms that Imam Ibn Jazari used, rahimahullah ta'ala, and we should use them the same way as Sheikh Ayman also used them. So because we will need them in the lam and the other letters, so we have to stick to that edge of the tongue. Okay, those edges of the tongue, they have parts. We have the near edge, the far edge, etc., etc.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, barakallah fiki. Also notice that we put the pressure on the part of the roof, here, which is adjacent to the upper molars, the blue area, while the other parts of the roof, the yellow area, are only touched by the edges of the tongue without any pressure. In other words, the pressure could be applied by using the right far edge, the left one, or both. But we notice that in all cases, both edges touch the corresponding parts of the roof of the mouth. If we put the pressure on the front part of the roof, as we mentioned, the yellow area, the result will be a heavy dal. Make the dad heavy, pronounce it without any gunna, and get why we're emphasizing on this, because I have some students until now, they mix, and when they want to do the istitala of the dad, they let the sound go through the nose. So they say, see, gunna with the dad sakina. So pay attention. If you're listening to some students, make sure that they're not doing that. So it should be fadlu, fadlu. The sound should remain in the mouth and come out from the mouth, not go to the nose at all. Fadlu, fadlu, faddala, faddala. And give it its rakhawa by making istitala. Rakhawa means to let the sound flow. So the sound of the dad should not be cut off as some reciters do. Again, so all of this again, we mentioned it in details before. Okay, so to let the sound flow, not to cut the dad. You don't say fadlullah, fadlullah, or wal ard as-samawati wal ard. Don't cut it. Ard, it should flow a little bit. Fadlu, fadlu, fadl. See, you hear it? Fadl, fadl, al-ard, al-ard, ard. Okay? This is why it is wrong to give it qalqala, because it's needless. So when some people cut it, then they feel they need to make qalqala. So they say fadl, fadl, fadl. No. Or they say wal ardu, no. Istitala is the slight movement of the tongue under the pressure of the air that's imprisoned between the tongue and the roof of the mouth. That's what we mentioned before. This is slight movement. I'm making it like this, but it is smaller because there's a very little space there. Okay. This slight movement will make the tip of the tongue reach the origin of the upper incisors, the upper front teeth, not any further, because if you do further, that's a dha. The result of istitala is rakhawa, means the flowing of the sound of the dad. We already mentioned this. Okay. If you let the tip of the tongue move further to reach the tips of the upper front teeth, the central incisors, the result will be dha. The result will be dha instead of dad, as many people do. So we don't want to say av. Okay. So that is a dha in that case. excuse me. Okay. Then we have the examples. That's it. Then we start the word. So let me finish with showing you the part of the video how Bismillah, let me see if it's already here, just to show you how the Sheikh reads it and how the tongue moves in the Daad. Bismillah. You can see the video, right? So that is the Daad, as you can see. See how the tongue is moving and not reaching, not exceeding the front teeth. That's the istitala. That's how the Daad happens. While the Dha, look here, of course, you press on the tip of your tongue with the upper incisors. Is that clear? Any question? There's another video, I think I have it, where it shows the Daad with like 3D, something like a 3D. I hope I can find it, inshallah. Anyone has any question about anything we said today? Any question about anything we said today?
I have a couple of questions, but not about this class.
تفضلي.
Okay.
First of all, any question about the Daad, guys? Any question about the Daad? Any question about the Daad? تفضلي.
Okay. How can I strengthen my hat?
نعم.
How can I strengthen my hat? كيف أقوي حرف الهاء؟
الهاء
ما يطلع يعني تحس إنه ما يخرج إنه هواء.
weak. يعني the ha needs some breath.
Yes.
So don't stop on a word with the ha unless you have enough breath for it. Stop on the word before it or after it. And it's just about the breath. Nah, Allah, nahdi, yahdi, ilayh. I think it's only about breath and focusing on your throat.
Yeah.
And shaking the vocal cords well. Yeah. And
Yes, that's the weak part. That's the weak part.
Now,
like
so it just work on the breath and don't stop on the ha unless you have enough breath.
But
Don't
it's
stop on it unless you have enough breath.
It gives the qira'ah a very beautiful, like when you relax and like when you give the ha its time, like there is yani it's perfection to the qira'ah.
Naam, yeah, it's about breath. So you don't have to read the whole ayah, for example. Just stop when you feel like you cannot get it. Stop one word before or one word after.
Okay, how can you like tell if the dam is complete, like with the ha? Like I know it's you have to circle the lips, but
not circle the lips, just protrude the lips, just round them well, who, just like this. And if you want to know, prolong the sound. If you sing ho, for example, let's say home, let's say home, ho. If you sing ho, make it long, you'll find ho, 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 oh, you'll find its o sound. While say who, you know it's a wow خلاص. تمام. So prolong the sound, you will know. And
okay.
and protrude the lips and round them well. Ooh, like this.
Okay.
Barakallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. And let's finish with this video, as I told you about the dad, see exactly what we meant, that all of the edges, as you can see, this exactly what I wanted you to see, guys. So suppose I have that model, it's here already. See how the tongue is touching the roof. So this is the roof, obviously. This is the roof of the mouth, okay? See how all of the edges of the tongue touching all of the edges of the roof of the mouth. Okay, this one from this side is not good. It appears it's touching only the, yeah, it appears it's only touching the let's see from here. Yeah, this one I want. See here, see how it's touching exactly. Look here, it's touching the whole exactly. That's what we want. You see, guys, that's what we're talking about. And just make the pressure here on the yellow area. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله خيرا.